Hey everyone, welcome back to my garage and welcome to part 2 of my Shopsmith restoration. This video is going to go over the Powerplant. Just like the base, this thing is pretty rough. The first thing I want to do is strip it down as completely as I can and go through and clean every part. With the back and bottom covers off, I can get to all the internals and start to remove everything. For the wiring, I took a picture of the switch and where each wire went so I could get it back together right when I assemble it. Wiring and motor out of the way, I can move on to stripping the rest of the components. This whole thing is pretty much held together with roll pins, screws, and spring clips. Most of this unit is pretty well used and tired, the belts are actually in pretty good shape, so I won't be replacing those. The speed control system on this power plant was functional, but it was really hard to change speeds. You should be able to turn the speed control wheel easily, and I definitely couldn't. There were several culprits involved with this. The first problem was that the sheaves on the motor were pretty stiff and dirty. These definitely needed cleaning, since these need to move easily for the speed control to work properly. After cleaning the sheaves and motor shaft, I put just a couple drops of machine oil onto them and reassembled it. The second problem was the speed control itself was also really stiff. I took that apart, making sure not to change the high speed adjustment setting. The brass bearing was binding up and some of the teeth on the gears were a little deformed, probably from someone trying to turn the speed control past its stops a few times. I cleaned and polished up the mating surfaces of the shaft. Now it rotates freely in the housing. I took a small file to some of the teeth on the gears to get them to mesh properly again. Once that was done, I added a few drops of machine oil to all the moving parts and put it back together. Now it works like new. A little cleaning and polishing of the logos will go a long way to making the whole restoration look that much better in the end. Time to strip the old flaky paint off the housing pieces to make way for new paint. I'm using the original greens from Shopsmith. I really like how this color scheme is coming out, and I think it's really cool that Shopsmith still sells these colors 6 decades later. For all the surfaces that have sliding components in them, I'm cleaning them and polishing them with my brake cylinder hone. This will give them a nice, smooth surface to slide on. New bearings for the drive sleeve assembly since they were both feeling a little crunchy. I tried to get new bearings for the spindle assembly as well, but I ordered the wrong one. It felt fine though, so I didn't change it. Make sure you put the belt in place before you drive in the bearings and drive sleeve. Next go the Powerplant lock bits. Thread on the wedge locks and slide the rod in, then get everything adjusted pretty close so you don't have to mess with it while you're trying to install it back on the way tubes. Install the big wing nut that says headstock lock, and drive in the roll pin once the holes are lined up. A few adjustments of the wedge locks and we're done. Next goes the idler shaft and sheave. I installed mine in the same position it was when I took it apart. There's an eccentric bushing that this rides in, which is used to adjust the tension of the drive belt. Once everything is in place, we can adjust that more. Tighten down the clamping screw and install the washer and screw that keep the bushing from sliding out of place. Next I installed the Quill feed pinion. This is held in place with spring clips. All the Quill feed hardware, wing nuts, and Quill feed stop go on next. A quick cleaning of the quill itself and the casting it slides into, and in goes the quill. Before you slide this in, you need to pre-tension the spring. My research found that about 3.5 turns on the quill feed handle is the magic number, and after I got it together, that feels about right to me. Apparently, I completely screwed up on recording the speed control installation. Couldn't see anything useful at all for that, so sorry. For that, you'll want to add a couple drops of machine oil onto the drive sleeve for the sheaves to slide on. Then slip the sheave into place and put the belt over it. The speed control itself goes in the same way it came out, but you may have to do some tweaking of the speed control dial. I turned the speed control all the way counterclockwise, making sure to rotate the drive sleeve while doing so, then lined up the mark on the casting with the slow mark on the dial. Slip the loop of the sheave over the quadrant assembly and you're in business. Just put the rest of the screws on and you're good to go. The power cord wiring is fed through next, making sure the rubber grommet locks into place. Next, the motor can get installed into the motor pan. Now I can connect the switch, making sure to follow the picture I took earlier. With the drive belt in place, slide in the switch and lock it in place with the threaded washer. The switch is keyed so it can only go in the right way, but I'm pretty sure I know some people who could find a way to do it wrong. Now you can screw in the motor pan to the housing and slide the drive belt over the sheaves, install the back cover, and we're almost there. Polished up the Brightwork some just to make it really look as good as it can. Now the power plant can go onto the base assembly. I like to use a couple blocks of wood to hold the way tubes up while I do this. Now for the test. It's working great. The speed control is much easier to adjust now and the whole thing looks amazing. We're nearly done with the restoration. The next part is to get the tables and accessories taken care of, so stick around for that.